So we've been discussing the Republican Civil War in the House of Representatives. You have the Matt Gaetz faction, who are more purity testers and virtue signalers, and they're trying to act like we're shaking up Washington and we're changing the game. And he's fighting against Kevin McCarthy, who's the Speaker of the House, who's balancing many different Republican interests, you know, more moderate Republicans who happen to live in, like, blue districts versus, you know, very red, very MAGA Republican districts. So he's trying to balance all these things. Matt Gaetz is making many demands. And look, basically Matt Gaetz' strategy completely backfired, even though he won't acknowledge it. Because they had a vote on, like, the Matt Gaetz wish list, his preferred continuing resolution, which had deep, deep cuts to all these necessary programs. I mean, it slashed Meals on Wheels to the bone. It slashed heating assistance for the poor to the bone. It smashed the WIC program, right? That's the baby formula for, like, newborn babies. They cut that to the bone, right? The list goes on and on of all the things. 30% cut here, 50% cut here. It would have fired 200,000 teachers, this Republican continuing resolution. That's what Matt Gaetz wanted. Well, they had a vote on it, and it failed miserably. And so because they're such hardliners, they made it so that McCarthy knew there's no deal I can make here. So McCarthy had to go to moderate Democrats and say, let's just do a clean continuing resolution, strip out the Ukraine funding. Other than that, 45-day clean continuing resolution. And that's what ended up getting passed. So Matt Gaetz and his purity testing and his virtue signaling inadvertently helped Democrats massively. So that's why, in a weird way, I support this, man. I hope Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy keep going to war over and over and over. Well, guess what? Now, Matt Gaetz is calling for a vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Now, if you remember, it took like over a dozen rounds of voting for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker of the House. And in order for him to get that position, he had to agree to certain terms. And one of the terms is, basically, you can have a majority vote to oust him at any point in time if even one member of the caucus calls for a vote. Well, now Matt Gaetz is saying, I'm calling for that vote. So here he is on CNN. Let's watch, and then we'll discuss it further.
So you have been threatening to topple McCarthy, issue a motion to vacate the speakership if he worked with Democrats to fund the government with a clean CR, clean government spending bill, which is exactly what he did on Friday and Saturday. The House gavels back in tomorrow at noon. Are you going to make a motion to vacate?
Speaker McCarthy made an agreement with House conservatives in January, and since then he has been in brazen, repeated material breach of that agreement. This agreement that he made with Democrats to really blow past a lot of the spending guardrails we'd set up is a last straw, and then overnight I learned that Kevin McCarthy had a secret deal with Democrats on Ukraine. So as he was baiting Republicans to vote for a continuing resolution without Ukraine money, saying that we were going to jam the Senate on Ukraine, he then turns around and makes a secret deal. Now, I know you and I probably have...
Now, here's why that is an absurd criticism. They did the clean continuing resolution, but they stripped out Ukraine funding in the clean continuing resolution. It's the one thing that was changed. So that was effectively a concession to McCarthy and to the Republicans, and the Democrats had no problem. Okay, fine, we can strip that out on the condition of we'll have a up or down vote on just the Ukraine aid later on. So why would Matt Gaetz object to that? Why would you object to that? Because if there's an up or down vote on just that issue later on, well, if you're so against it, just vote against it. And, you know, whip your caucus up into agreeing with you to say, we're going to vote against this. So why does he act like that's a betrayal? No, this is like standard operating procedure in negotiation when it comes to politics. He's acting like this is some absurd thing. It's not like the deal was, and automatically next we'll get the Ukraine funding. No, it's we're going to have a vote on that separately. This is standard politics, and he's acting like it's some sort of a betrayal. That's absurd.
But however you think about that question, it should be subject to open review, analysis, and not some backroom deal.
No, but that's what the vote is. The vote is open review and analysis and debate and then a vote. Just because you agree to have a vote on it doesn't mean it's automatically going to pass. God, he's so Weasley, man. He's such a virtue signaler. I hate this guy. But I also love him because he's causing a lot of trouble on the right and inadvertently helping Democrats.
Motion to vacate tomorrow?
I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week. I think we need to rip off the Band-Aid. I think we need to move on with new leadership that can be trustworthy. Look, the one thing everybody has in common is that nobody trusts Kevin McCarthy. He lied to Biden. He lied to House conservatives. He had appropriators marking to a different number altogether. And the reason we were backed up against this shutdown politics is not a bug of the system, it's a feature. Kevin McCarthy's goal was to make multiple contradictory promises, to delay everything, back us up against shutdown politics, and at the end of the day, blow past the spending guardrails he'd agreed.
Okay, so he's trying to get rid of him. He's trying to get rid of him. Again, I find this hilarious. So Kevin McCarthy's promises that he made to Matt Gaetz were like, okay, we'll have a clean up or down vote on term limits. We'll have a clean up or down vote on a balanced budget amendment. We'll have a clean up or down vote on all these standard Republican, deficit hawk, I'm tough on spending, all that sort of stuff. And he's acting like he's a hero and he's a revolutionary and he's anti-establishment. No, you're actually taking the more pro-establishment position if you want to cut spending to the bone. And so for him to be mad that McCarthy cut a deal with Democrats for this 45-day continuing resolution, it's like, no, the reason why he did that is because the things you were asking for were absurd. He also would like to get those things through. He just realizes that whatever nonsense, cockamamie, insane continuing resolution Matt Gaetz would come up with his Freedom Caucus buddies, it's guaranteed to die in the Senate. He doesn't understand how politics works, right? So let's say Kevin McCarthy gets his entire wish list, everything he wants through. That exact spending bill, which cut everything to the bone, let's say they got that through. It would just die in the Senate. And then it goes right back to you guys in the House, and it's like, okay, so now you got to come up with a new one. And what happens then? Well, then you got to drop some of the things from your wish list if we're going to get it through. And then he would drop some of the things from his wish list, but not enough. It would get through the House, and then it would die in the Senate again, right? And even if it were to get through the Senate, it wouldn't be signed by Biden. If you're massively cutting Meals on Wheels and home heating assistance and 200,000 teachers, etc. So, he's a rebel with a cause, but the cause is a stupid cause. And he also doesn't understand how Washington works. He doesn't understand that McCarthy is balancing all of these different interests. And he made it so McCarthy had to go to moderate Democrats to get a deal. And then he's mad that the deal is not the stuff he wants. Well, yeah, you could have gotten more of what you wanted if you negotiated in good faith and only kept 2 or 3 of the things in your wish list in there. And the straight up or down vote on the stuff that he's been calling for, same deal. Let's say you have a vote. Let's say his balanced budget amendment gets through the House. It dies in the Senate. And then and even if it got through the Senate, which it wouldn't, it would die on Biden's desk. And so it's like all of this, guys, this is why I tell you, he's a virtue signaler and he's a purity tester from the right. He's purity testing from the right. Now you could say, oh, okay, well, at least he happens to believe in something. Fair. But all of those things are stupid. And then he seems to not understand that he's playing a losing hand anyway. Homie's got 7-2 offsuit, and you're up against a pair of kings. And it's like, what are you going to do with that? Well, I know what he's going to do with that. He's going to throw a tantrum, and he's going to try to get Kevin McCarthy to resign. But again, I tell you all of that to tell you this at the end. God bless. Keep going. In fact, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and many other Democrats are coming out, and they're saying, if McCarthy proposes the thing to get rid of if Gaetz proposes the thing to get rid of McCarthy as Speaker, we'll vote for it. We'll vote for it. So in other words, we're not going to bail out McCarthy. We'll vote for it. And then what happens? Total and utter chaos on the Republican side because they don't have anybody to replace Kevin McCarthy. There's nobody to replace him. It's not happening. So basically the question is, should Democrats vote for a continued civil war on the right where they eat each other alive? Answer, yes. That's one way to do it. Another way to go about it, honestly, the Democrats can't lose in this scenario because even if they vote to keep Kevin McCarthy, well, then they have leverage over Kevin McCarthy. And again, he'll be forced to continue to make deals with them, and the Democrats can extract some of their own priorities. So either way, the Democrats win. Either continue the GOP civil war, let them rip each other to shreds, or end the GOP civil war, back McCarthy, in which instance he's going to owe you. And then you can get some of your policy priorities through, even a Republican House. This is something Cenk Uger's been talking about. Simple idea that polls at like 80%. Paid family leave. Okay, well, what if on the next government shutdown fight, you got the same civil war brewing on the right, Matt Gaetz making all these demands. Kevin McCarthy knows this isn't going to get through, so we have to find some way to make a deal. He goes to the moderate Democrats. They say, look, we'll keep spending levels the same. But now you got to do something for us because we're bailing you out again. And the thing you're going to do is paid family leave. Then you have every Democrat voting for paid family leave in the House, a bunch of Republicans, because McCarthy knows I have to make a deal with the Democrats. And then it gets to the Senate, it could pass in the Senate, and then Biden signs it. Boom, you got paid family leave, using leverage over the Republicans, taking advantage of their civil war. I love it. I love it. I love it. Matt Gaetz, thank you very much. Thank you. For real. Thank you. Now, by the way, the final point to make in this conversation, look at this, guys. So Matt Gaetz tweeted this. House GOP members are seeking to quickly expel Gaetz if the ethics report comes back with findings of guilt. Following threats to vacate McCarthy, one tells me no one can stand him at this point, a smart guy with no morals. So they're referring to this ethics report into Matt Gaetz. And in the ethics report, of course, it's like all this very questionable stuff that he's engaged in. And so Matt Gaetz is acting like, I'm a victim. Nah, dude, you kind of brought this upon yourself. It's like when Madison Cawthorn, remember Madison Cawthorn, the Republican congressman, young guy, he was in a wheelchair, and he was talking about how, oh yeah, I was invited to these sex parties all over Washington, and leadership is super corrupt or whatever. And then the establishment struck back. And what happened? They released all of this dirt on him, and his ass is gone, gone, gone. Okay? Matt Gaetz might face a similar fate here. Because, like I said, he's a rebel. He's a rebel with a cause, but the causes are stupid. But it's causing more trouble than it's worth in the Republican caucus and actually making it so Democrats win more. So honestly, even if you're somebody who's on the right and you agree with Gaetz's goals, the way he's going about it is empirically incorrect. It's verifiably, factually wrong. It's not helping you fulfill your goals. It's hurting you. Again, which is why I'm supporting Matt Gaetz. By all means, keep this up. But they look like they're going to axe him. Apparently, everybody's turning on him. He might have some backing, a dozen or so who are with him. But almost everybody else is realizing the end result of his shenanigans is Democrats being helped and McCarthy having no choice but to go to the Democrats. So, and he acts like, I'm a victim. I'm a revolutionary and I'm a victim. And I'm fighting for you, which is why they're doing this to me. I'm fighting so hard for that balanced budget amendment. Yeah, such a populist, such a crusader for regular people, which is why his preferred continuing resolution had massive cuts to Meals on Wheels, home heating assistance, formula for babies, 200,000 teachers, etc. Please, man, please. But I love it. Like I said, keep going. I'm enjoying it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.